what is going on, guys? We're gonna have specific ratings for this patch for each character and also the system of changes. I will rate the system mechanics a 5 out of 5. I think them giving everyone health while also nerfing the same button proration as well, so it allows people to be more creative in their combos. I think that's really awesome. That means we're going to get a lot of variety. As far as the attack levels too, it seems like they made a lot of adjustments for all the characters, so the damage is not going to be too high, but I think that the damage is still going to be up there with a lot of Guilty Gear games. Another thing I want to go ahead and add as part of the system changes is that a lot of 6Ps have a lot of recovery. I'm trying to not break character, but yeah, I am very excited about that. I think 6Ps were a bit overpowered. Maybe with these changes that we're going to finally see a lot of variety buttons and maybe more air throws, and maybe later in the future they can start adding air Gatlin, so when people go for air to airs, they will be able to get more opportunities rather than just 6P. So let's talk about Soul Bad Guy right now. Soul Bad Guy, in my opinion, got reworked by a lot. I think they said that they toned down a lot of his mid-range, but I think that they did not tone it down as they intended. So I think this character is a 5 out of 5. I know that the 3-frame 5K is completely gone, but it did add an attack level on the second hit, meaning that you're going to get more damage, more hit stun for more mix-ups and things like that. They also busted command grab for high damage, so once you get closer, you're going to even do more damage. They changed this whole gameplay when it comes with just clean hit Volcanic Viper, which I think is going to be really, really great, because I think that combo was getting very, very dull, because all we had was clean hit DP, clean hit DP. That was everybody's combo structure. I feel like it was a bit boring. I do think that there's a couple of things that he did get nerfed, like his 6P not juggling off counter hit or launching on counter hit. I think that is a crazy nerf, but a lot of the compensations that he got really outshines that nerf. So now that he can cancel into Fafnir, Night Ray Vortex, all of these special moves, and now he has a clean hit for Fafnir, I think that his variety in terms of character has become way more appealing, not only for people that watch the game, but people that play the game as well. I will say that he changed for the best. I think a lot of people are not going to see it now at first because of all the time that you have to put in, but I think after 2, 3, 4 weeks, and maybe a month or two or so, I think the character in terms of its placement and most players tier list will not change. Now we're going to go ahead and go to KizzieKay. KizzieKay really didn't get a lot in this patch. One thing I'm very interested in, and I'm thinking just by on paper, the hit stop on shot state, when you're hitting somebody off stun edge on hit, has gotten better in terms of frame advantage. I think that is really, 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 really important, because if you hit somebody with stun edge, that means you should have way more pressure, especially on your turn hitting the opponent. So I think that change is really, really, really good for Kai. But as far as that, he got quite some nerfs. So 6P got nerfed, which is pretty justified. I think 6P was one of his best buttons in terms of just having invuln and beating a lot of upper mid attacks and sometimes low attacks as well. But now it has more recovery, so you have to be a little bit more cautious. But he still has strong tools like Var Slash, 5H, 2S, 5K as well. But they also nerfed 6H. And 6H, that was a very, 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 very brolic button. It was a very, very Fisher Price attack. And as much as I want to pretend that it's not godlike, it was one of his godlike tools. Counter hit, beat a lot of lows, beat a lot of mids, beat a lot of jabs. And if you're near the corner, he was able to cash out and do something crazy. They really are attacking a lot of the abusive moves that people use to cash out on high reward, which I think is great. I want to talk about his Vapor Thrust, his damage. All of his damage from Vapor Thrust got buffed across the board, but still not enough as a whole. His stun edges, even though it's the air and grounded, has more hit stun, it's still not enough to justify the nerfs and what he's going to be doing now. So with that being said, I will give Kai this patch a 2 out of 5. I think a lot of the nerfs that he got really made it hard for me to give him a 3. All of the things that he got without shot state is nerfed really bad, so it's really hard to combo off mid-screen. So with that being said, if they nerfing his mid-screen routes, it's going to be really hard for him to get big damage unless it's in the corner. Now I have to go to Mei herself. So Mei has gotten toned down a lot in terms of like her kicks and a lot of her far slash as well. They added a lot of startup on it as well, and increased the recovery and decreased the recovery for some of her kicks move. So it seems like to me that they made her very slow but have her recover fast, which I think is still okay because she still is designed to be a power hitter. So all of her heavy slash normals and her crouching heavy slash has gotten buffed across the board. So with that being said, it's more damage, more options to get more routes on counter hit as well. So I think overall those are pretty strong. All of her heavy slashes in the air also has gotten buffed as well. So it seems like across the board, they really want you to press the heavy slash button. Overall, even though it may feel like a lot of her stuff sound like it was going to be really bad, but I want to give this character a 4 out of 5. And the only reason why I'm giving her a 4 out of 5 because they really attacked a lot of her fast buttons in terms of damage, and I think those are very solid tools. And now she's going to have to commit to the Hail Marys, and which is why I'm giving her a 4, because I still think she is still going to be a very strong character, especially with Split and Split having more cool options off the Dolphin. So she is going to be very dangerous, and I think a lot of people are going to be having a great time playing this character. So now we got Axel Low, this character that I think is going to be pretty dangerous in my opinion. He takes less damage now, which is pretty awesome, just nerfing the damage across the board. Sickle Flash I think is going to be a very strong game-changing move. This move seems that my thoughts is I think that they were like, well, we want to kind of remove some of the charge move for this character, because it seems like it was really hard for people to get into this character, especially how active Guilty Gear Strive is. So they was like, we're going to go ahead and make this as a command move, and I think making this a command move is one of the strongest change for this character. I think this is going to be very insane. Combo routes, air to airs is going to be very immaculate. I think a lot of matchups that were kind of 5-5-ish because he was a charge character is kind of out the window now. Now he can kind of just throw out these moves, especially his strongest moves. So I look forward to what people are going to be doing with this character, because I think this character is kind of cool to watch. All of the max range moves also have damage buffs. So I think they really made you a range dependent character if you want to cash out. So they really are like, if you stay in your range, you are going to get the cool rewards out of this. The Whistling Winds, which I think is a really strong move. If you charge it fully, you get a launch effect on grounded hit, which I think is insane. They were like, if this move is not used as much, we're going to be sure that it's being moved and being used, and I am impressed. This is going to be a crazy change for him. So overall, I'm going to get Axel a 5 out of 5. I think this character is going to be very dangerous, especially all of the specialists have never dropped this character. It's going to be really hell on Guilty Gear Earth. Chip is one of the characters that got additional moves that I think is going to be very strong. But one thing I want to say is they completely took away all of the 3-frame normals in this game. So they took away standing P in terms of the speed. So it may be 4 frames, it may be 5, we don't know. His 6P had more recovery than most characters. They have now made that adjustment where it has the same recovery, I think, from across the board, if I'm not mistaken. So crouching heavy slash got a launch height and also less blowback from the air. So I think that means he's going to get more better routes, even stronger routes from corner to corner. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how his routes are going to play out. I'm thinking that this change is really going to make Chip very consistent. They also buffed his super, which I think is going to be really cool, because I always thought that that's like one of the coolest supers ever. The one where he goes zigzag in the air and comes down, they increase the damage for that. I'm very excited for that move to get buffed, because I feel like no one really uses that move unless they want to just do something crazy. But I think now having to use that as a cool reversal and getting the reward for that is really, really dope. With that being said, I want to give Chip a 5 out of 5. I think this character just got buffed across the board and just got a universal nerf that is not that big. And even with the universal nerf, I think that with the 6p recovery being reduced, it seems like that is just as strong as everybody else. And his 6p was always really good. So I look forward to see what Chip Zanum is going to bring to the table. Now, Potemkin, this is going to be a very interesting change for him because he got reworked quite a bit. They increased his gut ratings. So that means that now he is going to be decreasing damage taken, but his guts rating got increased. So that is a huge change for him already. His forward movement, he got the tension meter builds that he walks forward got buffed, which is really, really good because they want you to not really use a lot of special moves moving forward. They just want you to use a lot of the grounded tools that he got with the big reward, with the SPD that we're going to get into soon. A lot of his changes was forward movement, which you get more meter. He got a lot of hitbox and hurtbox changes, such as standing P. His crouching P also got increased startup, so it's not as fast. And it also has increased recovery, so you can't really match that move like you want to. They decreased the startup of 6k. They removed the Kara pop buster as a whole. Seems like you cannot Kara with 6k anymore, which I think is really, really huge for Potemkin. I think Potemkin really relied on that mechanic as a whole. So it's really hard for me to say that if this character really, really got is it really going to be gone or not. But with just looking at all of the changes, it's really hard for me to say. But I can say that this game plan is completely gone. We're also going to talk about Potemkin Buster. So they made it where they standardized the distance after throw, and regardless if the opponent's in the corner or not. They increased the damage, and now they added additional armor hit with the SPD as well, so you cannot mash against that, which I think is crazy. Heat tackle, I think the new input is going to be way better for Potemkin, especially when you see somebody jump, you can instantly just go for a 2-3-6, 6-2-3 immediately. So I think the fact that you're able to do that immediately is going to be very, very scary. I think jumping from mid-screen from him is not going to be such a solid game plan anymore, especially with now that he gets that and he also gets close to you, and as SPD becomes a little bit more of a threat, you're really going to have to be very, 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 very careful for Potemkin. They also changed the input for heavily Potemkin Buster, so that makes it even more easier and also even harder to see if they're doing heavily Potemkin Buster or not. I think this change is very, very huge. A lot of people are going to look over this, but I think this change alone actually makes Potemkin zoning and just mid-range control even more scarier because you can't tell if he's going to command grab you or not. It really sounds like Potemkin really, really got a lot of changes that makes him a 5 out of 5, but I'm going to give him just a 4 out of 4 because I know that Kara was really, really a strong game plan for him as a whole, and I think that he got normalized, but in a good way. So I'm going to give him a 4 out of 5. So Faust got a lot of changes. I think a lot of his changes kind of really gave him like some nice adjustments when it comes to his items, especially items that he may want to use. I think personally the items being able to catch in the air is also really huge for him, especially when he wants to get trumpet immediately, and he can use that trumpet and go into jump 2k, and then that keeps the pressure going. But also having to get the trumpet, you get some extended pressure as well in case somebody tries to punish. They have to be very, very precise of trying to optimize the punishing. Probably use Roman cancel to kind of get the return off of those straight hits that they hit you with, depending on the situation. Across the board, all of his items, again, you could use them now in the air, which is really, really great. A lot of his gut damage items like bomb also got damage increase, 100 weight also. Afro also being get in the air, but all of the damage across the board has gotten better. So I think in terms of utility and conversion, you're able to get rewarded if you get those hits. I think the biggest thing right now is the mini Faust nerf. I think that is a really, really, really huge nerf for Faust. Like really, really big. I think mini Faust is probably his best item in the game. A lot of people may disagree and probably say meteors, but I think personally, Mini Faust changes a lot of aspects. He gave him a free command grab. Sometimes he could take a risk, and like even if the risk is wrong, he has Mini Faust to kind of back him up. So I really think Mini Faust really had a huge threat just being out on the screen, and I think now that it kind of took that away, I'm not really sure how I feel about how strong that he will be, even with all of the nice rewards off his other item. Even though he got a lot of great changes, I would personally give Faust a 3 out of 5. Even though with all of the changes and things like that, Faust just feels like they'll take something that is very, very strong from him, and like even though all these changes is really, really great, he will be unchanged in the meta. Now let's talk about Millia. I think Millia is a lot of the changes that we read was really, really strong. She got a lot of damage buff, which I think is really good. However, they did take away one of her most abusable moves that she had in her arsenal. Aerial backdash, just timing for the buffer window, but it also added additional cool things with jumping K. So I think jumping K is going to be such a stronger option now, especially being able to kind of trick the opponent if you're going to go cross up, or if you're going to do the fast fall, or you're just going to do IED back K. I think having that as a weapon in her arsenal makes her very, 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 very hard to deal with, especially post knockdown. I will also say that now that she can cancel into aerial backdash or aerial backdash even at a low altitude, it's really, 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 really good. I think a lot of people are not paying attention of how strong that is. I think being able to backdash off of that is going to be very, very obnoxious to deal with, especially when you're in the corner and you have to deal with a lot of the oppressive things that she can establish, especially when she has amazing resources. Overall, I'm going to give Millia a 4 out of 5. I think the air to airs is going to be so much more obnoxious to deal with, especially Jump D having some more cool stuff that they can utilize, and you can keep the offense with it, and you can kind of jump back as well, or backdash as well. So it's going to really keep a lot of people on their toes, and plus that you get a lot of damage as well. So when you get a good straight hit, it's going to really, really, really pay off for the character. So I think I would give this character a 4 out of 5. Now to talk about Zato, I personally think this character has been in a really, 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 really messed up state. The 6P nerf is really, really bad for him, just because I feel like he relied on it as a whole. I personally think that that was probably his good button in mid-range. So that being gone and it being normalized, I'm not sure how him as a character is going to be. Close standing slash got a damage increase, which is really, really huge. I think close slash 2H into Frog is really going to be like the key way of how he gets a lot of damage. I mean, the character really needs to have something, in my opinion, to compensate for all the things that got turned nerfed to the ground. I think the biggest thing that is really want to talk about is Damned Fang actually gives him full Eddy meter back. I think this change is not even huge anymore. I think this chain is just pretty much being reverted back to what he was doing originally. So it really is just well, here we have it. Welcome back. So now Sun Void, you're able to do the super, but when Eddy drops down, he has more recovery before he could do pressure, meaning that you're not going to be able to jail as easily before. So I think this is a huge, huge, huge nerf for the character, especially that was his core game plan, especially being such a squishy character and not having great normals to begin with. I think this character overall has a 2 out of 5 in my opinion. I think the biggest thing that's going to be really important is / being able to combo into Invite to Hell, and the active frames of 2S being able to get a lot of people catching backdash, and maybe also potential Invite to Hell as well. So the fact that he got all of that really doesn't really change or fix anything that I wouldn't even say messed up. I would say just change, but they kind of just reverted back a lot of the things too that he already had. So nothing really is going to change Eddy as much, but I will give him a 2 out of 5. I think those two changes alone is really important. 6H is also good, but overall he just got a damage buff. But you know, that's all he's really got. Eddy got a damage buff, and that's That's really all he really got. Ramathal is a brand new character. So they really went hard on this character. They gave her a defense buff, which is really great, but they decreased the damage on all of her non-sword normals. So that includes her jab, that includes her close slash, that includes after you throw the sword and you press the button, all of her normals without sword. 6P also got a decreased damage, so they really toned her damage down a lot and made her priority only on swords. But in return, when she has the sword, she has nothing but high increased damage, which is very dangerous. And as you can see, with the damage increase in her mid-range, I feel like it's going to be way more potent, especially now that Daro actually combos off regular hit and juggles, which I think is going to be really strong. Very interesting of where they're taking her. I'm really excited to see what people kind of create and what style she ends up becoming. Now, one of the biggest things I think is going to be a huge nerf for her, now that when she throws her sword, she cannot pick it up unless it is actively coming back to her. So I think that, in my opinion, is a very huge nerf, especially to her corner pressure with the sword throw and then picking it up and doing the stagger pressure and the sword throw again. They completely removed that, which I think, in my opinion, is healthy for the game, because that pressure was very abusable, and that really made it where anybody can just pick up the character and do a lot of pressure. I think they're starting to really step away from that aspect of the game and making it where you have to be a little bit more creative in your pressure and also take a little bit more thought process in how your opponent is defending. Distro now is an overhead. I think this is really insane. Increase the movement speed so it's even faster, which is crazy, but she get low damage. But the fact that it's an overhead now really makes her very potent in the mid-range, because you have to really respect that move and you always have to stand up. But the downside is if you're super close in the air, it's very easily to kind of for her to flip over you, possibly being able to kind of punish her and make her put her in a bad situation, and that you can kind of take your turn. So Sabrato, which is the double slam sword attack, now she can cancel into it. It's also increased the startup as well. So I wonder if you could probably hit confirm into it. I think that is very huge for the character. I think this character is in a very good direction when it comes to creating a new type of archetype for Guilty Gear Strive. I think a lot of brand players are going to feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but overall I think they're going to start finding the flow and figure out some strong things about the character. So now we're going to talk about her Rekkas, which is, I'm going to go ahead and say that her second Rekka got nerfed really hard because she cannot dash cancel it anymore. So now she can only dash cancel the first one, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, it got a lot of big damage, and she also can get a juggle off it if you get the charged version correctly of the powered up version. So that means that you're going to be able to get high damage in certain scenarios. So I think that's pretty cool too. I think overall, in terms of like the pressure of the aspect of it, it's got a nerf, but it's also now a combo tool as well. And I'm really glad that they kind of gave her something that's really nice, that doesn't only rely on swords to do a lot of damage. I think the Rekkas being another way as well is very healthy for her, especially with all of the things that they took away from her. Overall, I would give Ramathal a 3 out of 5. I think she got a lot of bad things more than good. I think the huge thing is not her swords coming back slower, and I think her being able to cash out on like her best super in the game now has to have a specific condition. It's a bit tough in my opinion. So overall, I would give her a 3 out of 5. I don't think she's bad, but I definitely think she can probably get better overall. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to see how she plays out. Now we got Leo Whitefang. They nerfed his dash. He halts now when he goes back. So it seems like dash blocking really got nerfed from him, which I think makes a lot of sense depending on his just looking at his archetype. Their whole goal was to make it where his neutral aspect of the game was nerfed and back turn was buffed. So now the cross-up attack, the Berserker Slash, is now more slower. So I think it's going to be a little bit more slower, kind of like an Exer Rev 2. So I think it's going to be very easy to throw that a lot But I'm curious to see if Leo players are going to find any cool ways to kind of trick it in, slip it in, maybe with fireballs and things like that. I don't think this move is going to be completely gone, but I definitely think it's not going to be as easy to win with this move. Turbulence getting more knockback, I think, in my opinion, is a huge buff, especially going toward all of his stance. Now his dash can be canceled into normals and special move, which I think is insane. That is really, really good for this character. So they just made it where now his backdash has throw and a brief strike and throw intervene as the movement starts. So that's good. And all of it is just no longer canceled to other actions, but all of it got increased damage. So I think overall he just got nothing but damage buff, especially all his special moves as well. And Biter stance like the command throw. Also, they got the super, if I'm not mistaken. So all of the stats just got really, really buff. So I think overall this is a 4 out of 5 for Leo Whitefang. I think Leo Whitefang is still good. I think he got a slap in the wrist. I think he only got 2 big changes that kind of going to slow him down, but I think back turn stance is just so much stronger. So I think overall he is a 4 out of 5 for me. So Nago got a decreased gut rating, so he's not going to be able to survive as much, but he also got a defense buff, so I think the defense modifier and the guts rating kind of makes sense, which is okay. But his 6p got nerfed. I think the biggest thing right now for him is the 6k crumbling on non-counter hit. I think that is really huge for him, and that might be something that he actually needs, especially with the adjustments that they gave him right now. So his 5H cannot be cancelable anymore off specials, but it guard crushes and increased damage. An opponent will never attack upon land. So it seems like you get hard knockdowns off these moves. So if you hit somebody with 5H, you're able to get close. I think, in my opinion, that makes the interactions more active rather than just checkmating people. So I think that, in my opinion, for a lot of Nago players, it's not a good thing. I think that is really, really rough for him. Personally, for me, I think it's going to change a lot of how you have to play. 6H getting a damage increase is going to be very, very scary, because I think if you get a really, really good punish and you're able to do 6H, RC 6H, that is going to do a lot of damage. But I think that's kind of like the only thing that you're probably going to be looking for, especially if you don't want to break the wall or you just want to cash out on fast damage. Overall, I'm going to personally give Nago a 1 out of 5. I think a lot of the things that he got taken away from him was really, really huge, and then they really didn't give him anything to compensate outside of guard crush and hard knockdown. So I'm not really sure how this character is going to be played, but obviously the veterans that have been playing this character are going to probably find something out. I think the biggest hope right now is that if you can do the Shizori Yuki and you could combo off the first hit into the second hit follow up, and that stays the same, I think that he might have some utility to become a 2 stars, but if that's not the case, I think 1 star he got right now. Now GiOVANO got some really good changes, in my opinion. She obviously got the defense buff, so she's decreasing damage taken, which is really nice for her. Her dash momentum off her dash and canceling at the start action carries over now, which is really, really, really good. It's going to be very, very obnoxious to deal with her. But she also lost the 6p privilege that she had before, but I think that is normalized for everybody now, so it's not that bad. Also, her 6H is also really good too, because it increased the movement speed on the 3rd hit and it decreased the lander recovery, which means that you're going to probably get some another setup after the hit, and you'll also be able to keep your offense pressure and not have to just melee with a specific move. You might be able to get a safe jump. We will have to see, but overall it's looking pretty good. Chabe, which is her dash, is no longer in counter hit state. I think this is really good for her, just because that she is not in counter hit state doing this move, but it's also more harder to kind of deal with her as well, because if you do check that move, you're going to have to not get used to having to get the counter hit conversion. You're going to have to just be aware and quick. So I think overall, this is a really good thing for her. Overall, I would say GiOVANO, in my opinion, is a 3 out of 5. I know that she got a lot of good stuff. I think the power-up state really keeps it at a 3 out of 5. I think her game plan in terms of everything else has not changed. I think what she's doing already is just going to be slightly better, but nothing that is going to stand out crazy. I think she is just in a very, very good spot right now. I think she's very balanced for the game. And overall, I just think that she is going to remain the same. Anji, now we coming in, right, got recovery reduced up to 6p, which is crazy. Jump D also doing more damage. It's also insane. Now he can do charge fusion and cancel it into like any of his special moves, which is crazy. They also increased the damage as well. So I think this move alone is just extremely strong. But they had to compensate and get rid of Nagiha knockback that they gave him this patch, which I didn't understand what they were thinking. But I think now they kind of realized that that was silly goose and no more of this silly goose stuff, and now they brought the knockback back to normal, which I think is fine. I think Rin is a very, very interesting change because now you don't get the round bound effect, which means that you're not going to be able to roaming cancel to get some damage after your overhead. But Cole got increased damage, which I think is really important to think about because he could do charge fusion into Ko, which means that his damage output is just going to be 10 times stronger and it's going to be really, really good. I'm curious to see a lot of the RC combos that people create. Overall, I will say Anji is a 5 out of 5. I think this character is really, really good. Everything that he got is almost insane. They've really, really, really put a lot of thought process into giving something like this character charge fusion into fusion. So I'm really curious to see what people figure out with the offense of this character. But overall, I think this character is a 5 out of 5 for me. Now we got to talk about Ino. Ino got a lot of good changes, especially with the defense. She also is one of the characters that got defense buff. 6p, also increasing recovery, so it's not as strong before. Air throw got the decreased blowback, so that means that she's probably going to keep the offense a little bit more as well. Antidepressive scale, which is her fireballs. You now cannot be limited of throwing a fireball when the move is out. She can throw another one, which I think is really, really strong. I think now that her pressure is going to be a little bit more scarier to deal with because she can now throw another one out, and if you're not ready for that, it's going to be very, very hard to kind of intercept her, and she's going to be able to intercept you. So I think that's really good for her. Social performance also got a damage increase. The S and K version, which in my opinion is really good, and also the heavy slash version decreased the time it needs to be held. So I think now it's even harder to anti-air, but also got another damage buff as well. So overall, I'm saying that this character move list has got more potent as a whole, and also got a launch height, especially off the heavy slash version. Overall, I want to give Ino a 5 out of 5. I think a lot of the problems that she had is now looking really, really good. I think Ino players are going to be eating this patch. Definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. I look forward to see what the players do with her, especially with all these changes, and especially now that you're way more faster as a character to mix you up. So now we got Go Lewis. Go Lewis is officially a tank in this game. They gave him a pre-battle introduction with Slayer, which I think is really cool that they added that in. He also gets less damage taken, which is a huge buff for this character. 6H also getting the damage take. They reworked the security level, so there's multiple levels and cooldown time for each move that expends the security level. So that means you're going to be able to cancel into a lot of his security level special moves like Behemoth Typhoon. But they added a lot of recovery in the air, so I think now that if you are throwing Behemoth Typhoon in the air, you're not going to be able to you will be able to easily get punished now. So I think you got to be a little bit more cautious, but across the board on the ground makes a lot of sense because your ground version has become 10 times more stronger, especially now you could cancel into multiple Behemoth Typhoons. If you use Thunderbird and they hit you out of it, your security level does not go away. I think now it depletes a little later. So if you happen to throw it out and I think you recover now, I think now your Thunderbird will still be intact and you will not get punished. I think that is a huge, huge buff. Really, really good for people that especially throw out Thunderbolt at the bad times. I think now you can take that risk, and worst case scenario, you'll probably just get counter hit. And you'll be okay. Overall, I want to say this character is a 5 out of 5. I think this character is going to be insane this patch. Every Go Lewis player is going to be cooking. So I'm looking forward to seeing how fun people have with this character and how many people are not going to have fun fighting this character. But overall, he is a 5 out of 5 for me. So now we got Jacko Valentine. Her 6P got nerfed really hard, and I think that that was a cool, a strong core game plan for her. But now it is normalized, just like everybody else. So I think overall that is a huge nerf. But her crouching H also got higher damage, so if you get a good hit with that move, you're going to be able to cash out, and I think that is just a very, very strong thing to deal with. This is a very, very strong thing to have and players to deal with. I don't think that is a easy button to move around with, especially depending on the character and how your minion is placed. She got servant shoot now that can be dash cancel, which I think is pretty cool for her pressure, especially when you want to take him to the corner. I think that is a really good thing for her. Overall, it's gonna be very potent to deal with her in pressure, but she cannot cancel it into other special moves, so unfortunately it is not as strong. Overall, I want to say that I want to give Jacko a 1 out of 5. I think she got completely nerfs across the board, and even with the change that they gave her with the kick, doesn't feel like it's going to be doing anything crazy that it's already doing. Even though she has a 1-star, I don't think she's bad at all. I'm just saying that I think in terms of the rating of the patch, she didn't get anything crazy. Now for Happy Chaos. Happy Chaos is really interesting because now he got the defense buff, which is really good, and he got a decreased gut rating, so I think he's going to get hit hard even more despite the defense buff across the board. Scapegoat got hit really, really hard. I think this is going to be very, very bad for him, especially characters that are very, very fast. I think he's going to have a hard time. If not, he's going to have even a worse time against those characters. Overall, I want to give Happy Chaos a 2 out of 5. I think even with the damage buff and things like that, I think the Scapegoat really being a huge nerf for this character. I really think it's going to change a lot of people how they play and not rely on that move, and I'm looking forward to see what they do while they took that away. If it's going to give more good spacing tools and RC to kind of react, I'm not really sure, but I can just tell you right now that this is not a strong change at all. I think this is a really, really bad change. But it's also good for the game. I'm not feeling bad whatsoever, but I also think it's good. But he definitely will probably need something outside of damage to compensate of what happened. Biking is going to be really, really interesting because obviously they got the defense buff, but her dash got buffed, which is very, very scary. The first startup of it is going to be really, really good, which means that her dash blocking just got it way more potent than before. 6P getting an adjustment, thank goodness, got more recovery, and the hitbox is lower from the bottom, which makes a lot of sense. Jumping D also got a damage buff, so maybe she'd be able to do jump D loops and get more return off of it, which I think is really, really good. Kabari also has a vacuum effect, which in my opinion is broken as hell. They really, really gave this character some really good stuff, and I'm looking forward to see what they do. Overall, I want to give Biking a 5 out of 5. I think this character is going to be really, really strong. I think a lot of Biking players are going to shake up the meta this patch. I think with all the changes that they gave her, she seems like she may have lost a lot of her routes in terms of just fire evasion, high damage, but she has great utility and she is consistent now. And I think consistency, in my opinion, is always going to have way more longevity than high damage. So I think she still gets a lot of damage still, but now that she's very consistent, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy playing her. Now we're going to talk about Testament, 6P nerf, which I think was the best thing ever. That button was goddamn so good. They also shrunk the hitbox on the bottom, so they're gonna have to really, really use their other normals in their arsenal, which in my opinion, they have amazing great normals. And 6P was just better than all of them, which was crazy. Now the biggest thing, if they have stain on you and they throw you, they're going to be able to get a combo and be able to break the wall. So I think, in my opinion, stain just became way more obnoxious to deal with. You will get blown up. I think that change is really, really good. I think they are just going to become a stronger strike throw character, especially now that Stain becomes more of a threat the moment it is on you. Overall, I will give them a 3 out of 5. I think the buffs don't really, I think the 6P nerf is really, really bad, but I also think the throw change is really, really good. They got really slight damage buff, but nothing really out the ordinary that is going to shake up the meta. I just think that they're just stronger as a character overall, but I think the game plan is still going to be the same. Now we're going to talk about Bridget. Bridget also got defense buff, but also got increased guts rating, which means that she's going to have more health longer as the game goes. So I think that is a really good thing for her, in my opinion. Her 6P got nerfed. It has more recovery, so I think it's going to be very, very dangerous to 6P as a whole. But her close slash and her jumping S all got nice adjustments to kind of push the opponent back in front of her. So in case you were trying to do a combo and it hits you from behind, you won't be able to have to like be confused and figure out what combo route I should go to. I think that's good changes overall. Her roller movement now has an up and down during animation, and it removed jump cancel during the movement. I think this is really, really rough for her. I think this is actually very, very hard to get used to, because that option was, in my opinion, so strong. But also they have an up and down speed, so I think that's going to be pretty cool. So I'm curious to see what Bridget players figure out with the new rolling movement changes. Overall, I would give Bridget a 2 out of 5. I think the defense buff and the gust rating is probably her biggest buff ever for her, in my opinion. I think everything else is just nice quality of life change, and the nerf, in my opinion, is going to be a huge nerf, because that just nerfed a lot of the mobility options. So overall, I would just give her a 2 out of 5. Now for your boy, KizzieKay. KizzieKay got a damage buff from a lot of his moves, but let's talk about the defense buff that he got and his guts rating. So he is now more tankier than before, which is really cool. His 6P got recovery increase. His forward slash got increased recovery. So whiffing that move is going to be way more harder. But the stamina, they also increased the cooldown time, which means it's going to be very, very, very hard to get your meter back if you're spinning it very often. B driver has increased recovery, so I think that means it's going to be more punishable on block, but it also increased the knockback and auto the guard crush effect, which I think is crazy. I don't know what they were thinking adding the guard crush effect, but they just made him a guard crushing monster, which I think is hilarious, especially from what he was doing before. Overall, for my playstyle, I would give this a 1 out of 5. I think they really, really nerfed my playstyle as a whole, and I'm not really, really looking forward to any of this at all. But if I will be unbiased, and I will say, I think Sin is in a 3.5, almost 4. I would say 3.5 out of 5, or just 3 as a whole. I think the damage of all its special moves is really, really good, and adding guard crush is going to be very, very scary as a whole, especially given how scary and fast this character could be. I think the damage across the board, also cashing out with Tyrant Barrel, is going to be really great as well, and also the rush down, it became even more potent. But now we're going with Batman. So Batman got a defense modifier value, so he's going to be taking less damage than before. They shrunk the lower hitbox in 6P. Thank goodness. He got a lot of damage changes from across the board with his special moves, with 236S and 236H heavy slash. They also decreased the guard crush a lot. So overall, it seems like they just really made slight adjustments and a lot of distance change with all of his moves. But overall, I think he is still good, mainly just because he has some of the most health in the game, which now is really good. And called 13C, it decreased recovery, so definitely a scary thing for this character. I think the craziest thing is call 4B9. Air projectile activate mid-air. It attacks in lower position than previously. I think that is really, really scary, especially now that he could be able to jump in air and kind of force you to kind of block his setups, which I think is very, very dangerous. This character now is strong and very potent. Overall, I would give this character a 4 out of 5. I think this character is definitely going to be more of a threat. He's been slowly but surely just coming up on the tier list, but I don't think he's going to be a little bit too crazy. I still think only specialists are going to understand a lot of the things the most, but overall, I will give him a 4 out of 5 because all the changes are really, 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 really strong for him. That makes his offense even more better. Now for Asuka. Asuka got a lot of changes. They nerfed the 6P. They increased the recovery on the particle spear, which I think is very, very huge. And then the bookmark for order increased the time duration for slotting spells and things like that. I think it reduces the mana cost while reduced mana cost effect is active, which is pretty crazy. So they really changed that a lot. The recovery mana increased the mana recovery rate, but the effect duration got nerfed, so I think that is more of a nerf than a buff. Big Shift Meltron, which removes all spells at level 5, and it starts at 1 and increase the mana cost. I think that is really, really huge. It really makes this really, really hard to just use as a whole. And then they increase the damage at level 2, level 1, level 2, increase the damage at level 3, level 4, level 5, and decrease the duration of Guard Crush. And the Guard Crush duration expand corresponding of the number of spells active. So overall, I want to give this character a 1 out of 5. I think this character got really, really gutted really hard. Not a lot of things that sounds very interesting for the character. So it seems like this character has been kind of going downhill slowly but surely. But I think this character is a 1 out of 5. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think nothing is really going to change. And we're not going to see a lot of Asuka players just show up out of the woodwork. I think the people that like Asuka are only going to play Asuka, and they're going to have to get used to the changes that they gave to the character. Now we're going to go for Johnny. They increased recovery of 6p, but they made Misfinder negates projectiles when the attack hits a projectile. I think that is really, 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 really good. It brought back the old Johnny and the Singa doing more damage. Overall, even though this character really didn't get a lot of changes, he's just been slowly but surely just moving up strength-wise. I think this character is a 5 out of 5. I think this character is going to be a huge threat, and not being able to throw projectiles to keep him in check is now going to be game changer. I think this character is very, very good, and I think he's going to be very, very popular. Now we're going to talk about Elfelt. As before, they have a defense buff. 6p got more active frames but more recovery, and then the Bomb Chocolate increase the launch height. So that means you're going to be able to get more combos, which is very, very scary. Here I Go, which is the Rekka can be canceled on contact with an opponent, which I think is going to be really, really crazy. She's going to get some cool routes. The Bomb Super now lost all throw ability and is now a strike. They want you to use it more of an offensive tool. So now you're going to be able to explode immediately when certain hits hit them when the bomb is active, which means that she's going to be able to mix you up and be able to get like great setups off of that, which means that her damage has gotten way more higher, especially now that she could probably set that up with post wall break and being able to mix you up. So that is a very, very strong change for Elfelt. I think she is looking really good right now. Her wall assault actually is now a red wall assault, which I think is going to be even more of a threat for this character. Overall, I would say Elfelt is a 5 out of 5. I think all of the things that she got is so good, it's so scary, and I think she's only going to just be getting better as the game progresses. Now for Abba, she got a defense buff as well, and her dash momentum got nerfed, so she's not going to be able to get the slide, and then her 6p also got more recovery in regular state and in Jealousy Rage as well. And even her Interflight Twilt, which is the overhead, also got increased recovery as well, and reduced the launch height after a ground bounce on counter hit, and the opponent will no longer attack upon landing on a counter hit. So I think those are going to be interesting changes for her. The Judgment and Sentiment also got a second hit, got mad damage. So I think that's going to be really, really good. This character continue on just being very, very solid as this game progresses. She is a good staple of the game. Overall, I would give Abba a 3 out of 5. I don't think anything about her changed. She was already doing a lot of damage, and I think the damage is still going to be the same. But now that she's not going to be able to whiff a lot of moves, so she's going to be very, very cautious of whiffing attacks such as 6p. And last but not least, we got Slayer. Slayer got added voicing line, got a gust rating nerf, so he's going to be taking more damage as the game progresses, but he also has high defense as well. Now far standing slash is really good because now it has a ground bounce effect, so I think now it's going to be very, very hard to just jump on this character or jump away from this character. 2H got more recovery, but that's okay because it's still good as a hitbox and things like that. You can still special cancel. Also, JD actually having more active frames. Mappa Hunch got more recovery and increased knockback, but that's fine because he still has 2H. 2H is still going to be paying the bills. Pile Bunker even got more damage, which is really, really insane. They think that wasn't doing a lot. They said, we're going to make sure that you continue on doing more damage off of Power Bunker. Overall, I give Slayer a 3 out of 5. I think even with all of the great changes and stuff like that, in terms of damage and things like that, he is having lower health. So I think that kind of balanced him out to a 3 out of 5 in my opinion. I think even though with the craziest high damage on power break and things like that, not having a reversal completely as a whole, I think it's going to be really, really hard. It's very, very easy to snowball you, and the fact that they gave that up for more damage doesn't seem a stable way to make him a 4 or a 5 out of star. And there you have it, guys. I went ahead and I broke down all the characters. You guys let me know in the comment section below. Do you kind of like this stuff? If you guys want me to do this more, I'm more welcome to do it. I thought this was pretty fun. You guys let me know in the comment section below. Did you guys enjoy it? And I'll see you guys on the next video. See ya.